Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you've been chasing, money, recognition, relationships, achievements, hasn't made you truly happy. You scroll through social media, you see everyone else's perfect life, and you wonder why, despite all your efforts, joy still feels out of reach. What if I told you that the reason happiness has always eluded you is not because of what's missing in your life, but because of where you've been looking for it? That the truth about happiness is far more surprising than anyone has ever told you. Most people search for happiness outside themselves, thinking it can be bought, earned, or given by others. They measure their worth through comparison, validation, and achievement, unaware that the foundation of lasting joy has nothing to do with possessions, praise, or approval. The shocking truth is that happiness is not something you stumble upon. It is something you cultivate, something you create, and something you claim for yourself. It is not dependent on anyone or anything outside of you. And the moment you understand this, your entire perspective on life changes. Today, we are going to uncover the surprising truth about happiness, the hidden principles that can transform the way you think, feel, and live. We'll explore why most people chase it in all the wrong places, how to reclaim control over your joy, and why the power to be truly happy has always been inside you, waiting for you to claim it. By the end of this journey, you'll understand that happiness is not an accident, a reward, or a fleeting feeling. It is a choice, a skill, and a practice that anyone can master. So if you are ready to stop being at the mercy of circumstances, stop looking outside for validation, and start experiencing a profound, lasting joy that cannot be shaken, then stay with me. What you are about to discover is not just a new idea, it's a revelation, one that can change the way you live your life forever. Happiness is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but very few people truly understand where it comes from. Most of us are taught from a young age that happiness is something we have to chase outside of ourselves. We are told to pursue the next promotion, the next relationship, the newest car, or the perfect house, and that all of these external achievements will finally make us feel fulfilled. Society constantly reinforces the idea that our joy is dependent on circumstances, on something or someone outside of us. But the truth is far more surprising. Happiness is not found outside. Happiness is cultivated within. It begins in the mind, in the heart, and in the choices you make every single day. Too many people wait for conditions to be perfect before allowing themselves to feel joy. They say, I'll be happy when I make more money, or I'll be happy when I find the right partner, or I'll be happy when I reach that goal. But those when moments rarely lead to true happiness. Why? Because happiness is not about external circumstances. It is about how you relate to them. Two people can have the exact same life, one filled with joy and the other with misery. The difference is not their circumstances. It is the way they cultivate their inner state. Happiness begins as a choice, a conscious decision to nurture positivity, gratitude, and contentment regardless of what is happening around you. Cultivating happiness from within requires self-awareness. It requires that you understand your own mind, your patterns, your triggers, and your reactions. You must learn to recognize when you are letting outside events dictate how you feel. For example, if someone criticizes you, do you immediately feel worthless? If someone ignores you, do you feel rejected? If a situation doesn't go your way, do you feel defeated? These are signs that your happiness is being outsourced to the opinions and actions of others. True inner happiness comes when you reclaim control over your emotions, when you realize that the only person responsible for your joy is you. One of the most powerful steps in cultivating inner happiness is learning to be present. People often look for joy in the future or dwell on the past, forgetting that the present moment is where life actually exists. True happiness grows when you fully engage with what is happening now. When you appreciate the small victories, the quiet moments, the simple pleasures that are often overlooked. It is found in the way you savor your morning coffee, the way you notice the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the way you listen to a loved one without distraction. These moments may seem insignificant, but when you consistently cultivate awareness and presence, they accumulate into a life rich with genuine joy. Another key component is gratitude. Gratitude is the soil in which happiness grows. When you focus on what you already have, rather than what you lack, your perspective shifts. You begin to notice abundance instead of scarcity, possibility instead of limitation. Gratitude turns ordinary experiences into extraordinary ones. It allows you to see the beauty in your life, even amidst challenges, by cultivating a habit of gratitude, whether through journaling, reflection, or simply pausing to appreciate. You reinforce the understanding that happiness is an internal state, not an external reward. Inner happiness also requires self-mastery. It is the ability to regulate your thoughts, control your reactions, and maintain perspective, even when life is chaotic. When you are constantly reacting to external events, whether it's someone's opinion, a disappointment, or a setback, your happiness becomes fragile. But when you cultivate self-mastery, you develop resilience. You create an internal environment that is stable, regardless of external turbulence. This does not mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is perfect. It means facing challenges with awareness and intentionality, choosing responses that nurture your peace rather than undermine it. It is also important to understand that external achievements can enhance your life, but they cannot create happiness from scratch. Money can provide comfort, relationships can provide companionship, and recognition can provide validation. But none of these can generate the deep, lasting joy that comes from within. Many people chase these external markers relentlessly, only to find that once achieved, they still feel empty. The reason is simple: their inner world has been neglected. True happiness is not dependent on accumulation, it is dependent on cultivation. Cultivating happiness within also requires discernment. It requires being intentional about what you allow into your mind and heart, the media you consume, the people you spend time with, and the thoughts you entertain. All influence your internal state. Choosing positive, uplifting, and empowering influences strengthens your internal environment, whereas negativity, criticism, and toxic relationships erode it. Your inner happiness is your responsibility, and it must be actively protected and nurtured. Finally, cultivating happiness within requires acceptance. Accepting life as it is does not mean settling for mediocrity or ignoring your goals. It means acknowledging reality without resistance, recognizing what is within your control and what is not, and focusing your energy on the things that truly matter. When you accept life's impermanence, its unpredictability, and its challenges, you stop wasting energy fighting what cannot be changed and start investing energy in cultivating joy in ways that are sustainable and authentic. The surprising truth about happiness is that it is always accessible. It is not something to chase or acquire. It is something to cultivate, moment by moment, choice by choice. When you take full responsibility for your inner state, when you practice gratitude, presence, self-awareness, and self-mastery, happiness becomes a natural byproduct of the life you intentionally create. It is not fragile, fleeting, or dependent on circumstance. It is strong, enduring, and rooted deeply within you. Happiness, then, is not out there waiting for you. It is not a reward for reaching a certain milestone or achieving a particular goal. It is a skill, a practice, and a conscious choice. When you learn to cultivate it from within, you will no longer be at the mercy of external events. You will find that joy is not something that happens to you. It is something you create, nurture, and carry with you wherever you go. And that is the true power and freedom of understanding that happiness is cultivated from within. Most people spend their lives chasing approval without even realizing it. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek validation, good grades, praise from teachers, compliments from peers, recognition from parents. The message is clear. If others approve of you, you are worthy. If they do not, you are lacking. As adults, this pattern continues. We look for likes on social media posts, worry about what colleagues think of us, and bend over backward to please friends or partners. Approval becomes a currency, and we spend our energy trying to earn it. Yet the surprising truth is that constantly seeking approval is one of the fastest ways to lose your power, your peace, and ultimately your happiness. When you tie your sense of worth to others' opinions, you hand them the keys to your emotional state. Every compliment lifts you up. Every criticism tears you down. You are no longer the master of your own life. Instead, you live at the mercy of other people's judgment. And the truth is, you will never get universal approval. No matter how much you try, there will always be someone who disagrees, someone who misunderstands, someone who disapproves. Life is full of opinions and they are often fleeting, uninformed, or self-serving. When you seek approval, you are asking to be ruled by the whims of others, rather than leading your own life. The cost of living for approval is enormous. First, it robs you of authenticity. You start tailoring your behavior, your speech, and even your dreams to match what others want to see. You suppress your true thoughts, desires, and ambitions because you fear rejection or criticism. Over time, this creates a version of yourself that is not fully real. You may appear successful, likable, or good to others, but inside you feel disconnected, empty, and inauthentic. You trade the freedom of being yourself for the temporary comfort of approval, and that trade always leaves you poorer in spirit. Second, seeking approval wastes energy. Every effort to please someone else requires mental, emotional, and physical resources. You expend energy on making people like you, on smoothing over conflicts, on managing perceptions, and on keeping everyone comfortable around you. That energy could be invested in your own growth, your own goals, and your own happiness. But instead it is spent trying to manage the feelings and opinions of people who may not even have your best interests at heart. Over time, this constant drain leads to burnout, frustration, and resentment. Third, seeking approval diminishes courage. It makes you hesitant to take risks, try new things, or pursue your ambitions. You fear failure because failure might lead to disapproval. You avoid speaking your truth because someone might disagree. You shrink yourself to fit into the expectations of others, and in doing so, you prevent yourself from reaching your full potential. Life rewards those who act boldly, those who take responsibility for themselves, and those who embrace risk. But a life spent chasing approval is a life of playing small, of hiding your strength, and of settling for comfort over growth. The surprising truth is that no one can give you the approval you need to be happy. No accolade, compliment, or pat on the back will ever substitute for self-approval. Self-approval is the foundation of true confidence and lasting happiness. It is the quiet, unshakable understanding that you are enough just as you are, that your worth is not determined by anyone else's judgment, and that your value is inherent. When you develop self-approval, you stop bending to please everyone and start acting with integrity and purpose. Your choices become aligned with your values, your goals, and your authentic self, rather than the fleeting opinions of those around you. Owning your life begins with this recognition. It means taking full responsibility for your emotions, your decisions, and your path. It means choosing what you will do, how you will live, and what you will believe about yourself, independent of external validation. You stop waiting for permission to feel worthy to pursue your dreams or to take action. You stop allowing others to dictate the boundaries of your life. Ownership requires courage, because it often goes against the instinct to seek comfort through approval. But the reward is immense. Autonomy, confidence, and the freedom to live fully as yourself. One of the first steps toward owning your life is learning to say no. Saying no is not selfish. It is a declaration that your time, energy, and priorities matter. Every time you say yes out of obligation or fear of disapproval, you sacrifice a piece of your freedom. Every time you say yes to something that does not align with your values, you reinforce the idea that others' expectations are more important than your own. By learning to say no, you reclaim control over your life and signal to yourself and others that your boundaries are non-negotiable. Another essential step is to stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison is a subtle form of seeking approval because it places your value in someone else's hands. When you measure yourself against someone else's accomplishments, looks, or lifestyle, you are implicitly asking for external confirmation that you are good enough. The truth is, your worth is independent of anyone else's success or failure. Owning your life means focusing on your own growth, progress, and fulfillment rather than chasing validation through comparison. Finally, owning your life requires self-reflection. You must examine your choices, your patterns, and your motivations. Are you acting because you want to, or because you want someone to like you? Are your decisions aligned with your goals, values, and authentic self? By asking these questions regularly, you cultivate awareness and clarity. You begin to live intentionally rather than reactively, and in that intentionality, true happiness and freedom emerge. The truth is, when you stop chasing approval and start owning your life, you become unstoppable. You stop giving away your power to others. You stop letting their opinions shape your reality. You stop waiting for validation and start creating it for yourself. Happiness, confidence, and fulfillment are no longer contingent on anyone else. They are the natural outcomes of living a life that is authentically yours. The moment you embrace this truth, your life changes forever, and you step into a power few ever truly experience. Most people think of happiness as something simple and easy to attain. They imagine it as a state of comfort, of peace, of life flowing effortlessly without conflict or struggle. Society reinforces this belief, teaching us to seek comfort, to avoid pain, and to make our lives as convenient as possible. But the surprising truth is that happiness is not found in comfort. Happiness is not the absence of challenges or adversity. True happiness requires courage. It demands the willingness to face discomfort, uncertainty, and even fear. The people who experience lasting joy are not those who avoid difficulties, but those who confront them head-on and emerge stronger. Comfort can be seductive. It lulls you into a false sense of security. It convinces you that as long as life feels safe and predictable, you will be happy. But comfort is temporary. It is fragile. It provides fleeting pleasure, but it does not cultivate the strength, resilience, and satisfaction that come from overcoming obstacles. Happiness that relies solely on comfort is shallow and unstable. A minor inconvenience or setback can easily destroy it. People who chase comfort often find themselves constantly frustrated because life is inherently unpredictable and no amount of convenience can protect them from disappointment, loss, or challenge. Courage, on the other hand, creates a foundation for lasting happiness. Courage is the ability to face your fears, to act despite uncertainty, and to persist even when the path is difficult. It is the willingness to confront discomfort rather than avoid it. When you cultivate courage, you stop letting fear dictate your choices. You stop settling for safety at the expense of your growth and fulfillment. Happiness grows when you step into situations that challenge you, when you push beyond what is easy or convenient, and when you embrace the discomfort that accompanies meaningful progress. One of the ways courage fosters happiness is by teaching you resilience. Life is filled with setbacks, failures, and losses. Comfort alone cannot prepare you for these moments. Only by confronting difficulty, by navigating challenges with intention and strength, can you develop the resilience necessary to remain joyful even when circumstances are harsh. Each time you face a challenge and overcome it, you reinforce the truth that you are capable, that you are strong, and that your happiness is not dependent on external conditions. Courage allows you to build an internal fortress, one that protects your peace and joy against the storms of life. Happiness that requires courage also demands authenticity. Comfort encourages conformity. It tells you to stay small, avoid risk, and prioritize ease over growth. Courage, on the other hand, requires honesty with yourself and the world. It requires that you make decisions aligned with your values, even if those decisions are unpopular or difficult. It demands that you speak your truth, pursue your passions, and stand firm in your convictions. The deeper your commitment to living authentically, the more joy you cultivate, because your happiness is no longer borrowed from external approval. It is earned through integrity and self-respect. Another critical aspect of courageous happiness is embracing vulnerability. To be truly happy, you must be willing to feel fully. This means allowing yourself to experience emotions without numbing or avoiding them. It means taking risks in relationships, in work, and in life. In general, knowing that rejection, failure, or criticism is possible. Vulnerability is uncomfortable, but it is also the gateway to connection, fulfillment, and profound joy. Those who protect themselves by staying in comfort miss the depth and richness of life that comes only from taking emotional risks. Happiness is found not in safety, but in the courage to engage fully with life. Courage also allows you to confront your own limitations and fears. Many people avoid looking inward because self-reflection can be uncomfortable. They resist change because it feels threatening. They avoid growth because it disrupts the status quo. But the path to genuine happiness often passes through the discomfort of self-awareness. Courage enables you to face your weaknesses, acknowledge your mistakes, and take responsibility for your life. When you do this, you gain freedom, the freedom to change, to evolve, and to create a life that aligns with your deepest desires. Happiness emerges naturally when you claim that freedom. Furthermore, happiness that comes from courage is proactive rather than reactive. People who chase comfort often wait for circumstances to be favorable. They hope that life will be easy and that joy will arrive without effort. Those who embrace courage, however, create their own happiness. They take initiative, make bold decisions, and pursue meaningful goals even when obstacles are present. They do not wait for life to hand them joy. They cultivate it through action, determination, and perseverance. This sense of agency, knowing that you are the author of your own happiness, is profoundly empowering and deeply fulfilling. Courage also reshapes your relationship with failure. Comfort encourages avoidance of failure at all costs, which often leads to stagnation and dissatisfaction. Happiness through courage, however, views failure as feedback, as an opportunity to learn, and as a stepping stone to growth. By embracing risk and accepting setbacks as part of the journey, you develop a confidence and self-reliance that no amount of comfort could ever provide. Each time you rise after a fall, your joy grows stronger, more resilient, and more grounded in reality rather than illusion. The paradox of happiness is that it often appears when you are willing to face discomfort, not when you are insulated from it. People who choose the easy path may experience temporary pleasure, but their happiness is fragile. Those who cultivate courage, confront uncertainty, embrace growth, and step boldly into life's challenges. They do not wait for the world to give them joy. They claim it for themselves. They understand that true happiness is earned through effort, integrity, vulnerability, and resilience. In the end, the truth is simple but profound. Happiness is not a reward for avoiding discomfort. It is the byproduct of courage. Every time you choose bravery over ease, authenticity over conformity, growth over stagnation, you are building a foundation for lasting joy. Comfort may feel good in the moment, but courage creates fulfillment that endures even in the face of life's inevitable struggles. The people who are happiest are not those with the easiest lives. They are those who have the courage to live fully, embrace risk, and claim their joy on their own terms. Most people do not realize how much comparison controls their happiness. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, we are constantly measuring ourselves against others, comparing our looks, our accomplishments, our relationships, our wealth, and even our personal qualities. Social media has intensified this problem, showing us curated versions of other people's lives, making it easy to feel inadequate, behind, or unworthy. The truth is stark and uncomfortable. Comparison is one of the most powerful enemies of happiness. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you allow your joy to be determined by someone else's story, someone else's choices, and someone else's successes. And that is a trap that leaves you perpetually dissatisfied, no matter how much you achieve. Comparison is seductive because it gives the illusion of a benchmark. We tell ourselves, if I can be like them, I will be happy. But the truth is that the benchmark is never fixed. There will always be someone who seems better, richer, smarter, or more accomplished. The moment you reach one level, another appears higher and further away. Comparison is a treadmill. It keeps you running, but never allows you to arrive. Your sense of self-worth becomes tied to someone else's achievements instead of your own growth, and that is a recipe for frustration, envy, and discontent. One of the most dangerous aspects of comparison is that it distorts reality. You compare your entire life, your struggles, insecurities, and hard work with someone else's highlight reel, the carefully curated moments they choose to show the world. You see their perfect smile, their glamorous vacation, their career success, and you feel inferior. But you are comparing their public image to your private reality. And this is a fundamentally unfair and misleading comparison. It ignores the challenges, failures, and effort that everyone faces behind the scenes. The result is an unnecessary sense of inadequacy, a feeling that you are failing even when you are doing well. Comparison also robs you of presence. When you are focused on what others have, you cannot fully appreciate what you already possess. You cannot enjoy the progress you have made or the moments you are living in. Gratitude and joy are impossible to cultivate when your mind is constantly looking outward instead of inward. You miss the beauty of your own journey because you are fixated on someone else's path. The moment you stop comparing, the moment you focus on your own growth and achievements, you begin to reclaim your power and your happiness. The truth is that every person's journey is unique, and the path to fulfillment cannot be measured by someone else's standards. Comparison makes you forget this. It blinds you to your own strengths, talents, and accomplishments. It convinces you that you are not enough, when in reality, you are precisely enough for the life you are living and the goals you are pursuing. Happiness grows when you focus on your own story, when you measure yourself against yourself rather than against anyone else. Ask yourself, am I progressing? Am I learning? Am I growing? These are the questions that matter, not whether someone else appears to be ahead. Comparison also fuels envy and resentment, emotions that are toxic to happiness. When you constantly look at what others have and feel you lack it, you create internal tension and dissatisfaction. You start to resent those who are succeeding, and you undermine your own joy in the process. Happiness cannot coexist with envy. The moment you recognize that someone else's success does not diminish your own, the moment you stop seeing others as competitors or benchmarks, you free yourself from these negative emotions. Your happiness becomes independent of what anyone else does or achieves. Another critical factor is that comparison undermines authenticity. When you are constantly measuring yourself against others, you unconsciously start to imitate them. You try to mirror their achievements, their style, their choices, or even their personality, believing that by doing so you will be happier. But copying someone else's life never brings fulfillment. Authentic happiness comes from embracing who you are, leveraging your unique strengths, and walking your own path. When you live for someone else's approval or standard, you disconnect from yourself, and joy becomes impossible. Comparison also limits your growth. It creates a fixed mindset in which you focus on being better than others rather than improving yourself. It creates fear and hesitation because every step outside of someone else's perceived standard feels risky. True growth, however, comes from self-awareness, reflection, and the courage to improve on your own terms. When you focus inward rather than outward, you set goals that align with your values and strengths, and your happiness naturally follows from your progress and self-mastery. Finally, you must understand that happiness is not a competition. Life is not about being better than someone else. It is about being better than you were yesterday. Comparison distracts from this fundamental truth. When you accept that everyone's path is different, that your story is uniquely yours, and that your progress is meaningful regardless of anyone else, you create space for genuine joy. Happiness is cultivated when you stop chasing someone else's life and start living fully in your own. Comparison is the enemy of happiness because it makes you dependent on external validation, blinds you to your own growth, fuels envy, and undermines authenticity. By choosing to focus on your own journey, embracing gratitude, and appreciating your unique story, you reclaim control over your happiness. The moment you stop comparing, the moment you measure yourself against yourself instead of others, joy begins to emerge naturally. Your happiness is no longer borrowed, it becomes yours, unshakable and independent of the world around you. Happiness is often thought of as something that happens to us, as if it is a gift we receive when life aligns perfectly or when circumstances finally meet our expectations. Many people wait their entire lives for that elusive moment when everything feels right, when the conditions are perfect, when problems disappear, and when others approve of them. But the surprising truth is that happiness is not something that merely happens. It is a choice, a skill, and a practice. It is something that you actively cultivate, moment by moment, thought by thought, and action by action. The people who experience consistent joy understand this principle, and they do not leave their emotional well-being to chance. Choosing happiness begins with awareness. It requires that you recognize that no external situation has the power to make you happy, unless you allow it to. Life is unpredictable. Challenges, disappointments, and setbacks are inevitable. Waiting for perfect circumstances before allowing yourself to feel joy is a path to perpetual dissatisfaction. True happiness comes when you accept responsibility for your own emotions, when you consciously decide to cultivate joy regardless of the chaos, uncertainty, or difficulty around you. Choosing happiness is a form of personal empowerment because it shifts the source of your joy from external factors, people, possessions, or circumstances to your own internal decisions. Happiness as a skill means that it can be developed, strengthened, and refined. Like any skill, it requires intentional practice and consistent effort. No one is born with perfect happiness any more than someone is born knowing how to play an instrument or master a sport. You must train your mind to focus on positivity, to see opportunities rather than obstacles, and to interpret events in a way that serves your well-being. This requires self-awareness, reflection, and the discipline to choose thoughts and behaviors that nurture your emotional state. Every time you practice gratitude, choose optimism, or respond to challenges with resilience, you are exercising the skill of happiness. Over time, just like training a muscle, these practices become habitual, creating a mind and heart that naturally incline toward joy. The practice of happiness also involves cultivating specific habits that reinforce positive emotional states. Daily routines, rituals, and disciplines can shape your internal environment, helping you maintain stability and contentment. Practices such as meditation, journaling, expressing gratitude, engaging in acts of kindness, and prioritizing self-care are all ways to strengthen your ability to experience happiness consistently. These habits are not superficial. They fundamentally rewire your mind to focus on abundance, presence, and fulfillment rather than scarcity, distraction, and complaint. The more consistently you practice these habits, the less dependent your happiness becomes on fleeting circumstances or other people's approval. Another crucial component of practicing happiness is embracing gratitude. Gratitude is more than a fleeting acknowledgement. It is a deliberate shift in perception. By recognizing the good in your life, you train your mind to focus on abundance rather than deficiency. Gratitude turns ordinary experiences into sources of joy. It transforms challenges into lessons and setbacks into growth opportunities. Practicing gratitude consistently rewires your brain, making it easier to experience happiness even in difficult situations. Happiness as a choice also means that you refuse to be a passive victim of life. It is easy to blame circumstances, other people, or society for your dissatisfaction. But true happiness comes from discerning that while you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can control your response. You can choose whether to dwell on negativity, or you can choose to find meaning and joy, even in adversity. This conscious choice separates those who experience fleeting moments of pleasure from those who cultivate enduring happiness. Importantly, practicing happiness does not mean ignoring pain, pretending everything is perfect, or suppressing negative emotions. It is not about being unrealistically cheerful or detached from reality. Rather, it is about developing the capacity to feel fully while maintaining perspective, resilience, and hope. It is about acknowledging difficulties without letting them define you, learning from failures without losing confidence, and navigating life's challenges with courage and self-awareness. Happiness in this sense is not accidental. It is earned through conscious engagement with life and your inner world. Ultimately, happiness as a choice, skill, and practice empowers you to reclaim your life. It frees you from the illusion that joy must be granted by others or dictated by circumstances. It places the control firmly in your hands. By committing to this approach, you gradually become someone who is not easily swayed by external chaos, criticism, or comparison. You become someone who experiences a stable, resilient, and profound sense of joy because you have trained yourself to cultivate it intentionally, consistently, and skillfully. The surprising truth is that happiness is always accessible, but it is never accidental. It is not a byproduct of what you have, or what happens to you. It is a deliberate creation of your mind, heart, and actions. When you recognize that happiness is a choice, commit to developing it as a skill, and practice it daily with intention, you unlock a freedom and empowerment few ever experience. You no longer wait for life to hand you joy, you claim it for yourself, and in that claim, you discover the most enduring, authentic, and liberating form of happiness. As we come to the close of this journey, it's time to face a truth that most people never fully embrace. Happiness is not a gift handed to you by the world. It is not something that comes when circumstances are perfect, when others approve of you, or when life finally feels easy. Happiness is your responsibility. It is a choice you make every day, a skill you develop through intention and practice, and a commitment to living authentically in the face of life's challenges. Every moment you spend waiting for someone else's validation, comparing yourself to others, or seeking comfort at the expense of growth is a moment you give away from your power, away from your joy, away from your life. The surprising truth is that happiness has always been within your reach. It is cultivated within, nurtured through courage, anchored in self-respect, and strengthened through resilience. It is not dependent on perfection, external approval, or the fleeting pleasures of the world. It is built through the choices you make, the boundaries you set, and the integrity with which you live. Each time you choose to prioritize your inner world over the distractions and opinions of others, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. Each time you face discomfort rather than fleeing it, you grow stronger. Each time you stop comparing yourself to someone else, you step closer to joy that is unshakable, unborrowed, and entirely your own. Understand this: your happiness is a declaration. It is a refusal to surrender your power to circumstances or the approval of others. It is a commitment to take ownership of your emotions, your mindset, and your life. It is the courage to live fully, unapologetically, and intentionally. The world will never stop presenting challenges, disappointments, and pressures to conform. But you have the power to rise above them. You have the ability to cultivate joy in a way that is independent, resilient, and enduring. So today, make the decision that changes everything. Stop waiting for happiness to find you. Stop outsourcing it to others or to the fleeting circumstances around you. Step into the responsibility of your own joy. Choose it, practice it, protect it, build it like a skill, wield it like a power, and carry it like a shield against the chaos of the world. True happiness is not just possible. It is within you right now, waiting for you to claim it. The moment you do, your life will never be the same. You no longer need to chase, compare, or conform. You no longer need permission or validation. Happiness is your choice, your skill, your practice, and it is yours to master. Claim it, live it, own it, and in doing so, you will experience a freedom, a peace, and a joy that the world cannot take away.